And now we present The World of Geometry with Brian Wells, sponsored by the American Mug Company.
Good evening, and welcome to another episode of A World of Geometry. I'm your host, Brian Wells. When people say to me, Brian, I'm so worried about the shape the world's in these days, I tell them the world is in a lot of shapes. You name it, I can take you there. So put on your walking shoes, break out your protractor, and let's explore. Alright, to start off our broadcast, we must talk about how to arrive at the numerous destinations I will be talking about today. I use the Austin-Bergstrom Airport in Austin, Texas for all of my travels. Here is a photo. By the way, there are two obvious examples of geometry terms. The two walls intersect to form an angle, which is when a figure is formed by two rays with a common endpoint. To be more specific, the angle is an acute angle, an angle whose measure is greater than 0 and less than 90 degrees. Our first destination today is the Stonehenge, located in Wiltshire, England. It is a perfect example of a circle, which is defined as the set of all points in a plane that are a given distance from a given point on the plane. Also, the outside of the Stonehenge is an example of circumference, the perimeter of a circle. By the way, its perimeter is 94 meters. We go now to Paris, where we view a historic example of the first skyscraper. This building is called Tour Albert and is a great example of a rectangle, which is defined as a parallelogram in which at least one angle is a right angle. Of course, we see a right angle, which is an angle whose measure is 90 degrees. Reporting now from the Atlantic Ocean. Reporting now, on the horizon we see an example of perpendicular intersecting at right angles. You also see a triangle here. The altitude of a triangle is a perpendicular segment from a vertex of a triangle to the opposite side, extended if necessary.
You're on!
Oh! Next is the Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. A pyramid is a solid figure that has a polygonal base and lateral edges that meet in a single point. Also, we see an example of a triangle, which is a three-sided polygon. Traveling to the States, we arrive in Las Vegas, the famous MGM Grand. They have a boxing ring with a perfect example of a square. That's a parallelogram that is both a rhombus and a rectangle. The perimeter of the ring is 92 feet. By the way, a perimeter is the sum of the lengths of the sides of a polygon. The Winter Olympics might be over, but the Summer Games are just around the corner. This is an example of the Olympic pool. It is a quadrilateral, which is a four-sided polygon. The area of this pool is 13,448 square feet. By the way, area is defined as the number of square units of space within the boundary of a closed region. Oh, that's some good reading. Now, we travel east to our nation's capital, visiting the White House. We see an obtuse angle, which is an angle whose measure is greater than 90 degrees and less than 180. Now, if one of the sides of this angle extended forever, this would be an example of a ray, which is a straight set of points that begins at an endpoint and extends infinitely in one direction. Oh, thank you, Steve. But why should we be content to stay on the Earth when we have a vast array of astronomical shapes to choose from? Here is the Moon. The diameter is 2,159 miles. Diameter is defined as a chord that passes through the center of a circle. The radius is a segment joining the center of a circle to a point on the line. Also the length of such a segment. The Moon's radius is 1,079.5 miles. Staying in space for a minute, we travel to the Sun. The distance from the Sun to the Earth is 93 million miles. The distance is the length of the shortest path between two objects. The midpoint is the point that divides a segment or an arc into two congruent parts. In this case, the midpoint is at 46.5 million miles. That's far. Hey, here's something we know a lot about in Galesburg. Railroad tracks. We see a good example of parallel lines, which are coplanar lines that do not intersect. We can also see a parallelogram, which is a quadrilateral in which both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Yes. Now we move into sports, where we find a basketball court and a wonderful example of a semicircle, which is an arc whose endpoints are the endpoints of a diameter. Alright, let's slow down a minute. As the show comes to a close, you're on your way to your next destination. You may encounter a yield sign, we see formed an acute triangle, in which is a triangle in which all three angles are acute. Also, we find a vertex of an angle. That's the common endpoint of the two rays that form an angle. That's all the shapes we have time for. Tune in next time for an in-depth look at orthocenters, fact or fiction.
What you know about man? What you know about man? What you know about man? Hey, don't you know I represent Mad League when I add shorty subtract freshman backpack where I hold in all my work. And what you know about man? What you know about man? What you know about man? I know all about man. The answer's 44. It's real easy cause of sig figs. You got 45, you rounded high, your answer's too big. What you know about man? What you know about man? What you know about man? I know all about man. GI-84 Silver Edition, know I'm shining dog. Extra memory on the back to do my natural law. You know we multiply while memorizing pi. Take limits to the sky, be sure to simplify. Graphing utility, that's trigonometry. 100 I'm at B, don't you cheat off me. Distance is rate times time, the sine graph ain't no line. Exponential decline, what's yours can't be mine. Memorizing braids for our mathlete states against the mathlete grades. Not getting many dates, I got to find a mate, but girls just play a hate and always make me wait. Can't don't even you know I represent Mad League when I add shorty subtract freshman backpack where I hold in all my work. Yeah, what you know about math? What you know about math? What you know about math?
I know all about math.